With the premiere of Season 2 of Daredevil Born Again, Charlie Cox made the following comment.
I feel about that. Karen Page is to Matt Murdock what MJ is to Peter Parker. It'd be very tough to make an argument that there's any other romantic character that is more important to Matt Murdock than Karen Page.
And that got me thinking, as a relatively new fan to Daredevil, with the TV show and Chip Zdarsky's run making up my introductions in a more formative way, I don't know if I'd exactly agree with it. I feel that way primarily because of another choice that's existed throughout my time as a comic fan, and that's...
Hello, Matthew.
So here I am, ready to go on a journey to answer the following question. Who is Daredevil's true love? Let's begin. Tackling the woman originally brought up, Karen Page was created by Stan Lee and Bill Everett in 1964. She makes her first appearance in Daredevil #1 and appears a total of 3 times across 6 panels. The first time Matt meets Karen is by way of Foggy. More specifically, after opening up Nelson and Murdock, attorneys at law, Foggy interviewed and hired her as their secretary. Upon meeting, Matt thinks the following. Her voice is like music. From the sound, she's 5'4", young, and I know she's lovely. The other times we see her in the book, she makes mention that she finds Matt handsome and reveals to Foggy, partially, why he's just so alluring to her. She says, "There's something about him that makes a girl want to take him in her arms and... Oh, I'm sorry, Mr. Nelson. I had no right to speak that way. It's just that he seems to need someone to look after him." This set the stage for a potential romance between the two. While in her time at Nelson and Murdock, she's placed in various precarious situations as a result of both being in a Daredevil story and the times in which they were written, making her a bit of a damsel in distress until later issues. There weren't really strong character qualities to Karen or many other female characters at the time that were as complex, engaging, and independent as we see today. But regardless of this, 4 issues later, Matt Murdock comes to realize that he loves Karen Page and he should not keep that bottled up inside. Of course, this doesn't come to fruition because we need drama! And in the many issues that follow, we witness the rise and fall of their friendship, as it erodes as a result of secrets and misunderstandings, so, classic superhero stuff. One of the key lies that Matt spins is that he has a twin brother named Mike and that he is in fact Daredevil. He does this to dissuade any suspicions that Matt is actually the hero that's always around them. Of course, this explodes in his face when in issue number 41, Daredevil, and by association Mike, is presumed dead after a tussle with the Exterminator and his hired help, Birdman, Catman, and Ape-Man. Truly weird and campy times. Then, in issue 43, we open with Matt expressing his frustrations as he exclaims, "The only girl I've ever loved, the only girl who's ever meant anything to me, and now she's gone. I've lost her forever." This is in reference to the fact that Karen left him alongside Nelson and Murdock as a result of Matt not pursuing her. While they remained in contact, eventually after a confrontation with Death's Hand, who was Karen's dad and dies, but we're not going to get into that right now, Matt reveals the truth about everything. What follows this are a bunch of ups and downs as the two try to make the relationship work, break up, meet other people, and various other adventurous decisions and takebacks that make up a good chunk of their history. Karen, however, did not just experience romantic drama mixed with a dash of trauma throughout the decades of her existence. Karen sadly goes through something far darker. At this point, Karen was no longer living in New York, and she left to Los Angeles to become an actress. However, things didn't turn out well for her as she turned to heroin and even shot pornographic films to afford her vice. And the culmination of her lowest point is when she betrayed Matt's trust by selling his identity as Daredevil to a drug dealer for just a simple hit. And this bedrock of a low point occurs during Frank Miller's critically acclaimed Born Again storyline. But as the name suggests, this is not the end of Karen Page. With Matt's help upon returning to New York, Karen succeeds in getting clean. She goes on to be an anti-porn activist and even works with Matt's alter ego to take down a child pornography ring, as seen in issue number 259. In addition to this, she faced another fake death from good old Matt, became a radio host for Wilson Fisk, and eventually went on trial for a murder that she did not commit. And in all this time, the relationship she has with Matt really just gave off will they won't they vibes. But as a reader, I can say that I've never really doubted how much the two really cared for each other. But what about Elektra? Elektra first appeared well into Daredevil's first printing in issue 168. She was originally created by Frank Miller to be a past lover turned deadly foe. The comic opens with Matt Murdock looking for Alaric Wallenquist, a thief who hired Eric Slaughter to protect him from Daredevil. But why is Daredevil after him to begin with? Well, Wallenquist witnessed a murder which someone else is taking the fall for. Daredevil tussles with some goons until he eventually gets to interrogate one of them. He receives the information he needed, but is knocked out by the handle of a sigh. While hazy, he describes the movements of the attacks, and I really should take a moment to go ahead and compliment Frank Miller's early work, especially when it comes to Daredevil. It's incredibly well done compared to his work after 2001. We carry on with the story as Daredevil recognizes the voice of his attacker to be the one and only Elektra. We turn the page to see Matt Murdock's past while he was in college studying pre-law. He and Foggy were going down some steps when suddenly the ladder fell down them and dropped all the books he was carrying. As they pick them up, the dean of the school approaches them, making some most likely intentional remarks about how he can see that the two were blocking his path as he leads an important student across campus. This student, of course, being Elektra. Just a few days after this, Matt properly introduces himself to her with a rose. Here we learn that she's Greek and is the daughter of an ambassador. Of course, Matthew, Mr. Yo Girl Murdock, will not be discouraged, so he asks her out on a date to the game. She rejects the offer, and Matt takes this as a sign to show off his acrobatics in an attempt to not let his condition isolate him or destroy his chances at finding love. Personally though, if someone doesn't want to be with you because of something you literally cannot control, fuck them. Anyway, shortly after, Matt reveals to Elektra the whole kit and caboodle. He suddenly tells her everything about the accident, to how his abilities function, and this is a pretty big thing because no one knows about this. Literally the first person Matt Murdock tells in continuity is a girl he meets approximately 2 days ago, which sort of makes the decision one that roughly cements the two's connection. The issue goes on to show that the two fell in love over time and makes the explicit remark that they are each other's first loves. Their relationship goes really well for about a year until one fateful day. On Elektra's birthday, she and her father were held hostage on campus. While Matt is able to successfully save Elektra, when her father gets up to exit the room, the police shoot him thinking he was one of the perpetrators of the crime. Eventually, we see that Elektra breaks up with Matt sometime after her father's funeral. She does so saying that she doesn't want to live in the United States anymore and that she's fallen out of love with the world, presumably with Matt as well. We later find out what Elektra was up to while away in her own comic line alongside a special flashback issue where she specifically goes after the man who was responsible for putting her and her father in that predicament to begin with. While she does succeed in killing him, she sadly gets overpowered by a loyal henchman. Ultimately though, she's saved by a dear old friend, Stick, who launches her patented sigh into the goon, killing him. However, she was mistaken as it wasn't Stick, but instead a member of the Hand who saved her life. When we cut back to the present, Matt gets up from the beating to find himself already bandaged up, presumably by Elektra. He comes to the conclusion that she's now a bounty hunter, and that while he despises what she's doing, he still has feelings for her. But nevertheless, he claims that he'll bring her to justice. The story continues as Elektra fails to set a trap for her bounty, leading to a confrontation at the docks that ends with a fight she wins, but is shot with a tranquilizer so they could drown her in the river. Except, Matt has also been on the case and rams the pier with the plane they were going to use to escape. As Elektra is held hostage, the pair use the same call-out they used way back when to get out of such a situation. This proves to Elektra that the Devil of Hell's Kitchen is in fact her long-lost love, and after a very quick kiss, Matt makes his way to carry his witness out while he leaves Elektra at the pier, crying. And that's a first for her apparently. And while this ending isn't really something that I'd write home about, we do get a layered look into the pairing that illuminates what could be and the issues that will represent their relationship as a whole. A couple of adventures later, involving ninjas and an even crazier bullseye than usual, Elektra and Matt's relationship takes a drastic turn in Daredevil 178. Just 10 issues after her first appearance, she's offered work under Kingpin. One issue later, she's tasked with killing Ben Urich. Of course, Matt gets in the way of that, and Urich receives some nasty injuries as a result. As a mega I bet to Matt, Fisk ordered Elektra to kill Foggy Nelson. She goes on to kidnap him, almost goes through with it, but upon being recognized by Foggy, she lets him leave. However, something far more sinister awaits her. So far, would I say that Matt truly loves one over the other? Not sure, but at this point I could see where Charlie Cox is coming from. With a long history and proclamation like the only woman I've ever loved being used, it's easy to see why he holds this opinion. However, I'd argue that Frank Miller's work thus far has made our journey to answer the question of who Matt's true love is more complicated. In just over 20 issues, Miller succeeds in establishing a dynamic and history that, while not as dense, is not lacking in chemistry and impact. But now that we've analyzed the lives of these women, we'll have to face their deaths and just how that breaks the man without fear. But that's a video for another time. Till then, everyone, it's been your boy Foster, and I'm signing off. I hope you have a good day and a good night.